Hey guys, and welcome back to Lamppost Studios. My name is Bella, and I just recently finished reading the newest Hunger Games book, Sunriseonthereaping. And I realized this video is probably a little bit late because I know tons of other people have already put reviews out there, but I still wanted to share my thoughts and just a basic analysis of the story. So before I read this book, I heard tons of people saying, oh my goodness, this book is so good, it's my favorite Hunger Games book, and I got really excited for it, but then when I actually read it, I was actually kind of disappointed with it. So this video is just my honest review on what I thought about this book. There are going to be very slight spoilers, but I'm not really spoiling anything major because this is a review, so I promise I'm not spoiling anything very big. These opinions are coming from an author, so I will be assessing the plot structure and character development based on my own experience as a writer. Of course, my opinions are still subjective, and I want to hear your opinions and thoughts. So make sure to drop a comment below, just please remember to be polite. Okay, here are my initial thoughts after reading Sunriseonthereaping. Okay, first off, I love Haymitch. Don't get me wrong, he is an amazing character, but I don't think this book was it. It just didn't do him justice. Now, I promise I'm not going to spend this video bashing the book. I'm just pointing out, honestly, what I didn't like about the book and analyzing it. This is nothing against Haymitch or any of the other characters. I just don't think this book did him justice. I do realize this is not a super popular opinion. Lots of people love this book, and that's perfectly fine. This book just didn't stick out to me as much as the other books, and this is coming from a person who loves The Hunger Games and Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but I honestly just think it was probably Suzanne's least best out of all of these books. The book really just felt slapped together to me, and it felt really flat and was honestly pretty boring. I do think the ending was done well, and I did enjoy all the cameos and the appearances of all these other characters that we love, even though it was slightly overdone. The plot. Okay, let's analyze the plot here for a second. So, being honest, guys, we pretty much already knew what this book was about before we even read it. I mean, we already know how it's going to end. We know it's going to be sad. We already know basically the premise of what happens to Haymitch, because, I mean, seriously, guys, like, you can just pick up Catching Fire, go to, like, the middle of the book, and then just start reading, and, like, somewhere in there you'll find the recap of Haymitch's games, so I almost feel like this book was unnecessary just because of the fact that we do already know Haymitch's story for the most part, and we also never see anything new. I mean, as one person on Amazon put it, it was like watching the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes smashed with Mockingjay, and like, it's true. It was a strange clash of stuff that we've already seen before. And there really wasn't much of a plot. And I know that the Hunger Games series has a pretty simplistic plot for the most part, very straightforward, but I feel like this book almost didn't even have a plot at all. I mean, obviously stuff happened, but like I said, like, we already knew what was going to happen, and we've already seen this before. I mean, obviously The Hunger Games is a game, so it's more of a series of events than actually following a plot structure, but I feel like this book just felt really random and repetitive, and it was kind of hard to see a lot of the connections. Now, don't get me wrong, there were some new and interesting things that we haven't seen before, but I mean, it's like, we get it. Okay, the Capitol's evil, they do terrible things behind the scenes. It's nothing really that new. As another person from Amazon said, it's just like we're watching a jumbled version of Katniss's games. Now, with the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I felt like this book was very different because we actually were getting something new and fresh, completely different vibes, new info, but I mean, Sunriseonthereaping just really wasn't like that. Now, I do think the book started strong and had some good potential, but it got boring really quickly. I feel like a lot of it was supposed to be tragic, and yes, there were some tragic things that happened, but I definitely think that a lot of the deaths felt really rushed, and they didn't really have enough quote-unquote screen time or really depth added to the characters to make it impactful. So it's like we see some of the characters die, but it doesn't really hit us in the way that I think it should. just because I feel like not enough time was spent with these characters, getting to know them, who they are, what is their goal in life, what are they struggling with internally. And so I feel like when some of these characters did die, it wasn't very, it didn't hit you in the way that it probably should have. And as someone else on Amazon said, it was like, oh, a bunch of mutts attacked and then someone died, and then let's move on to the next thing now. The characters. Okay, knowing how well Suzanne has written characters for the rest of the Hunger Games, this book is sorely disappointing. Haymitch just felt so different than from how we know him, and I understand that, yes, he is younger, this is before he's been through a lot of tragic things, but he just felt really distant and almost passive in this book. He didn't really have much of a character arc and felt very flat, not having a lot of depth. As someone said, Suzanne just had a hard time writing in the perspective of a teen boy, which I agree with. This is actually kind of surprising because I feel like young Coriolanus Snow from the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was such a strong character, and it was crazy just how Haymitch fell so flat in this book to me, and he literally just felt like Katniss, to be honest. He just felt like a more passive version of Katniss, and I don't know, it was just kind of strange a little bit reading this, and it was kind of like, where's the Haymitch that I know? The book was also kind of confusing because I think it was really hard to understand Haymitch's goal, like what he was really trying to do during the Hunger Games. Katniss's goal is literally to just survive and get out of there and win for her sister. Obviously, her goal shifts partway through, but it's a clear shift. We see that, first of all, she wants to help Rue, and so they form a plan to go and destroy the courier stuff. And then when the new rule is issued that there can now be 2 victors if they're from the same district, Katniss obviously wants to go and save Peeta. In this book, I feel like Haymitch was trying to do a bunch of different things all at once, and I feel like he kept dropping an idea and then suddenly it's like, oh, he's still doing this, never mind. It just got really confusing, and it was really hard for me to follow what Haymitch was actually trying to do. It was actually really funny because when I was reading through all the reviews on Amazon, literally every single person was talking about how annoying it was that Haymitch kept talking about his girlfriend, Lenore Dove. One person was like, I am literally so sick of the name Lenore Dove. Like, I cannot hear that name again or I will die. She felt exactly like Lucy Gray, and even though we don't have a lot of screen time to really connect with her and to really sympathize with her, I mean, she literally just felt like Lucy Gray. We don't feel any sort of connection with her at all. She just feels like a copy and paste of Lucy Gray. And I really think that the chemistry between her and Haymitch seemed really awkward and kind of weird. I don't know, it just felt like she didn't seem like the kind of person that Haymitch would be attracted to, in my opinion. I don't know, just really awkward, and it was just annoying how he kept talking about her over and over when we already don't really feel a connection towards her, so it's like, why should I care about her? I mean, obviously I care about Haymitch, but I don't really care about this other person because I don't know her and I can't sympathize with her. The other characters were also pretty meh, also really lacking, and we also don't really care about a lot of them either, just because I feel like there just wasn't a lot of depth there and we don't really get to see a lot of time with these characters. The only characters that I actually felt a connection towards was characters that we already knew, and of course Luella, one of the tributes that goes with Haymitch to the Capitol. Like I said earlier, I did appreciate a lot of the cameos, seeing a lot of these characters before and seeing how they play into the story and where they came from and all that. So that was kind of cool, but after a while it did feel a little bit overdone and kind of random and just ended up feeling like fan service, but I didn't mind that too much just because it was really cool because I was like, hey, I know that character. So content and symbolism. Okay, I don't know if it was just me, but I think the level of random, inappropriate content and language in this book was pretty high compared to the other Hunger Games books. So this isn't done in any of her other books, which is why I was kind of surprised to just see that like randomly pop up in there, but there was a random homosexual reference. Very, very irritating, very, very random. That was not necessary. No one cared, and it did not need to be in there. Second, there are at least a couple of pretty crude references, and really in the Hunger Games, there's really only that one scene in Catching Fire. If you know, you know. But I was just really surprised about how a couple of these scenes were just thrown in there. It was uncomfortable and unnecessary to the story, and was not proving a point at all. Third was the language. I saw multiple uses of language. It wasn't bad language necessarily, just pretty rude, and it just felt super random to me, and having multiple characters use these words just felt out of character for that character, because every person is now saying the same thing, and it just felt really repetitive and just like bad writing. As for the symbolism, I feel like Suzanne has always been a master at putting subtle symbolism and ethical principles into her books. In fact, I actually did an entire podcast episode linked above all about the Hunger Games. I did a really deep dive into picking apart the plot and the characters, and of course, the masterful storytelling and symbolism. So if you're interested, click on the link above and check that out. But I feel like for here, Sunrise on the Reaping, I just feel like the theme of propaganda, which was, I guess, supposed to be the main theme of this book, it just felt really forced to me, and it was not done very well. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, I guess the theme was supposed to be propaganda. I kind of forgot about that. Because I feel like when we're reading the other Hunger Games books, it's like we're constantly reminded of the theme that she's trying to portray. She kind of kept losing sight of that throughout this book, so it just came out feeling really muddy and not super clear. I feel like the only actual clear symbolism to me is the whole sunrise part. You'll get it when you read the book. If you have read it already, you know what I'm talking about. But I feel like that's the only part that actually made sense. Okay, in conclusion, overall, the book was pretty meh in pretty much every aspect. The plot was boring, we really aren't seeing anything new. Characters are flat, content was not appreciated, and I feel like just overall it was emotionally unsatisfactory. There were small things I did like, but again, I just don't think this book did Haymitch justice. I would have loved to see more of Haymitch either way before the games, and to see his dynamic with his friends and family, or especially after the games, since we already pretty much knew what his games were about going into this book. I would have loved to see how he gets to know Effie more and becomes a mentor. All these other interesting things I feel like would be so much more interesting to read about than his games. Hopefully the movie will be better, just like I think the last Mocking-2J movies were better than the book. I'm still rooting for a book about Finnick. If you have followed my channel for any number of time, you will know that I love Finnick, and I would love to see a book about his life. I would like to see his games, and maybe even his life before the Capitol, and how he met Annie and his relationship with the Mags, and I just feel like there's so much to Finnick's story that there is to unpack, and there's still a lot that we don't know about him, and I would personally find that book a lot more interesting to read, so maybe that will be something in the future. But if you think there should be a book about Finnick, please comment below and let me know that I am not alone, because I think Finnick is like the best character. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed listening to this honest review on Sunrise on the Reaping. If you agree with me, comment below and let me know your thoughts. Hopefully I will do a review on the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes soon, and why I love it so much. Well, I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Have a blessed day.